On this week's episode, we're headed to Cedar Falls to visit with one of the true legends of Missouri Valley Conference basketball. Coach Tanya Warren has spent more than 3 decades shaping women's college basketball in the Valley. As a standout player at Creighton, an assistant coach at Iowa State, Mizzou, Creighton, and UNI, and now entering her 19th season leading the Panthers, Coach Warren has become the winningest coach in both University of Northern Iowa and Missouri Valley Conference women's basketball history. Her teams have won conference championships, reached the NCAA tournament, represented Team USA, and she has developed countless all-conference players and has built one of the most respected programs anywhere in college basketball. Today, we'll talk a little bit about her journey, how this year's Panthers roster is coming together, the challenges of scheduling in today's game, and what's ahead for UNI women's basketball. So, Coach Warren, welcome to Deep in the Valley.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk a little basketball. The landscape obviously is changing and forever changing, but I like where our game is headed.
Awesome. So, Coach, we always love to give the coaches that are guests on our program kind of the space to let fans get to know them. Every story has a beginning. So can you talk a little bit about growing up in Des Moines?
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln High School, and then how that community helped prepare you to succeed and move on to the next level, both academically and athletically.
Yes, I love being able to share my story. I've been around the game since I was 5 years old. I grew up with 2 older brothers, and basically wherever they went, I went. And we started playing the game at a very early age, as I said, since I was 5. And that's all we did growing up. We didn't have the air conditioning gyms. We played outside, especially in the summer. From the time we got up till the time we do our chores, lunch, dinner, back out again. And then I had a dream when I was 7 that I wanted to play Division I basketball. And once I got to high school, I was 14 years old and tragedy hit our family where my oldest brother, Steve, who was a senior at East High School, being pretty highly recruited, died suddenly of a heart attack at basketball practice. And you go through a lot, especially at a very young age. And I remember something that we shared that was so special to us, took someone that was very special to me. And I really had a hard time navigating that. And I wanted to quit. I never wanted to play the game again. And I remember distinctly when my parents sat me down and they said, this isn't the way Steve would have wanted it. He would want you to continue to play. And I was real new in my faith, and through a lot of prayer, I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for the both of us. So that's where my mission in terms of trying to be the best basketball player that I could be began. And I look back now, everything that I have done personally and professionally, and God has allowed the game to be very good to me, has been in the honor of my brother.
Oh, that's a really special story, Coach. I don't know that I ever knew that. So thank you for sharing that. So you attended Lincoln High School, which has one of the best nicknames, I think, in all of high school sport, right? The Rail Splitters. And as you start to get interest from colleges, can you talk about what the recruiting process was like for you? Maybe what colleges were in the mix, and ultimately why Creighton University was the best fit for you academically and athletically?
Absolutely. Back then, it was a lot different in terms of the recruiting process. And we went to a lot of camps back then and all of those things. And recruiting was more by letters and in-home visits, that sort of thing. Not that we still don't have in-home visits, but it was more the letter part of it, the mailing part of it, and then being seen really through high school and camps. The AAU circuit wasn't quite what it is today. So I went to a lot of camps. Matter of fact, my dad would oftentimes say I was a little bit older than I was to get me in camps. And I knew I was recruited by Iowa State, Drake, USC, New Mexico. I had several offers, but I knew fairly into this that I wanted to go to Creighton University. Bruce Rasmussen wrote me a handwritten 6-page letter when I was in the 6th grade, and I was able to build a relationship with him. So I knew all along, and I wanted to be where my parents could see both me and my brother. My brother was at the University of South Dakota and then went to UNO. I wanted to be where my parents could see us both play. That was really important to me. And then I got to know Bruce really well, and I had played against County Yoy softball and basketball, and to have an opportunity to play with her and go and build something special is what Bruce talked a lot about. But I knew fairly early just because of the relationship I was able to build with him. To this day, he's one of my mentors. We've stayed in really good contact. Not only was he a great coach and a great AD, but an amazing person. And he too, obviously, along with my parents and so many other people along this journey, but he had a lot in shaping the woman I've become today.
That's awesome. So after redshirting your first year at Creighton, you started every game that you played for the Blue Jays. And so increasing in point production, rebounds, and assists per game every season. You still rank among Creighton's all-time leaders in scoring and assists. So when you look back in your playing days, did you expect to have that level of production when you arrived on campus?
I look back and I was a little bit ahead of the curve, as was Tanya Warren. We grew up playing with boys on the playground, and I was small. So my game had to evolve, and I had to learn to do the little things and do them correctly. So yes and no. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was small, and people always doubted me. And then I was playing for my brother, so I had that little extra internal drive. But I was surrounded by amazing people, players, coaches who really believed in me. I started as a freshman before I got hurt, and Bruce instilled so much confidence in me, almost to the point where at times it was a little bit scary, to be quite honest. But he believed in me from day one, and not only the player that I could be, but the young woman that I could become from an academic standpoint as well. But when you're surrounded by good people, good players, they believe in you, your coaching staff pours into you, good things were happening. And like I said, I've been blessed to be around amazing people.
You know, I would never call you small, but one thing I did notice in your stats is that before I think you got injured senior year, you were averaging 7.8 rebounds a game before you got injured. So can you talk a little bit about how somebody your size and stature kind of mixes it up and gets in there among the trees and grabs that many rebounds?
I really didn't have a choice. My coach was like, we need you to rebound from the point position. And there's nothing like a point guard being able to grab the rebound and start the break. And no one does it better than Caitlin Clark. But as a point guard, when you're able to secure the ball and then either throw it ahead or start the break, there's something extremely special about that. But that was an emphasis in our program.
You mentioned point guard. So you were a point guard during your playing days. And today we have a little bit of kind of positionless basketball.
Yes.
For a point guard when point guard was a thing, right?
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about how your coaching staff leaned on you to maybe be the coach on the floor? And did that experience shape your coaching philosophy today?
Yes. So as you said, it used to be by position, and it has shifted to positionless basketball. And I love both pieces of that. But as a point guard, and I still talk to our young women, even though we recruit kids that have great versatility and can play multiple positions, I still believe as a former point guard, the point, it starts, she's the head of the snake, and it starts with her, and she is an extension of me. And I want her to have that role. I want her to feel comfortable in that. And when you have your coach trusts you and believes in you enough to allow you to run some things on the floor and even go through some mistakes where you're growing from those, you can't help but learn from those things. And as you look at it now, all but I think a year, we've had an all-conference point guard. So I truly believe that's where it starts. You have to have a leader on the floor, and it starts with who has the ball in their hands the most. And there's no question it starts at the guard position.
So then transitioning to coaching, I think your coaching path is really fascinating. You started out off in high school and then as an assistant at Iowa State, UNI, Mizzou, Creighton, before eventually coming back to Northern Iowa as the head coach. Can you talk about that journey? Maybe even something that you picked up at every stop along the way, but how did each one of those stops prepare you for the ultimate role of being a head coach at the University of Northern Iowa?
I started at Boys Town. I really never wanted to coach. I wanted to be in family therapy and get my master's doctorate and go that route. And I had an opportunity to start at Boys Town, and Boys Town is a treatment facility. And it's really about developing the person, right? And the basketball part of it comes second. So that's really where I got my feet wet and had an opportunity to go to Duchesne Academy, which is an all-girls school, and had won 5 or 6 straight soccer state championships. And I had an opportunity to take over when our head coach had to take leave. So then I started to get a little bit of a love for that part of it. And then I had an opportunity to go to Iowa State as a restrictive earnings. That's like a GA today. And then I had an opportunity to come here. Tony DeCecco took a chance on me. I met him at camp. He knew Bruce really well, my college coach, and he had coached at Creighton. So I got to build that relationship. And he literally took a chance on someone who really had no collegiate experience. And he said, "You want to come and help build something special?" And I said, "Absolutely." And the thing that I learned, especially from Tony, it really is about the people and who you surround yourself with. And we're going to get judged on wins and losses. We understand that. But it's about building people up and making sure that they are prepared for when they leave this place. And you want to leave it better off than how you found it. And I've tried to do that every place I've been. And the thing that Bruce and Tony both taught me is I'm an Iowa girl. And it's important you don't forget where you come from. And when we took over this program, and we're starting our 20th season, when we took over the program, our vision was to build a program, not just a team. And when you look at the consistency in which we've been able to do that, it starts with the people and the people you surround yourself with. Yeah, I get a lot of the glory and the bad stuff too, but it's all about the people behind the scenes that allow all of this to happen. So again, I can't say enough about the people.
You mentioned Bruce and Tony, and can you talk about maybe some of the other folks? Like you mentioned, you've had consistency and
Yes.
coaches, but you've also had some people come in and move on
Yep.
to maybe bigger and better for
Yep.
themselves, move on to head coaching roles. And so can you talk about maybe some of those behind the scenes influential people that have left an impression on you and the program personally and professionally at UNI?
It goes way back for me to Marion Washington at Kansas. And I was able to watch her journey in how she was able to do things. And then the great Vivian Stringer, how she was able to do things. And I was able to sit down and have conversations with both of those women as I was starting to get into this profession. And then I can't say enough about Jim Flannery at Creighton. He's one of my best friends. I had an opportunity, we graduated together, and I had an opportunity to coach with him. Us get a better understanding that there's a lot of adjustments, and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to get it right, sometimes you're going to get it wrong. But the most important thing is you're able to go back and reflect and navigate on what could I have done differently or what did we do well. And then again, I've talked a lot about Bruce and Lisa. Lisa's had been influenced. When I was with USA Basketball, she was with USA Basketball. So we had an opportunity to sit down and really have some heart to heart about Drake and UNI and women's basketball in general and her journey at Iowa. And then Bill Finley. Bill reaches out to me before every game. We've bonded, we've become close. I had an opportunity to have his son Stephen on our staff. And what I love about Bill is old school, but there is nothing more important to him than family. He is loyal, he works hard, and you want to talk about a family man, both in his program and in his personal life. And I have so much respect for that man and what he's done and how he does it. There's so many people that have shaped me. It's too many to think about, but there's certain that stick out. And the people that I have talked about, Jenny Broncha at Oklahoma, when she came to Drake, you had that in-state rival, and it's still a rival, and it certainly was then. But you know what? We became really good friends, and we were able to talk about a lot of different things, not only between the lines, but outside of the lines. And the friendships that will last a lifetime. Cindy Stein took a chance at me at Mizzou. I went from Northern Iowa, where I recruited centrally one state, to recruiting nationally. And so many people have taken a chance on me, and I can't be more thankful.
So, Coach, we just had Allison Pullman on the show last week, and she spoke so highly of the people who helped shape her career, you included. So you had the opportunity to coach Allison early in her career. What's it like as a coach to see your players graduate and then have success professionally, both whether in basketball or another profession?
Yeah. I wish I could say I had something to do with that, but I really didn't. Allison, first of all, she was a competitor. She wanted to get better. Her presence commanded the floor. Not only was she a terrific defender, but she made herself into a really good offensive player. She could post up, really good mid-range dribble jump shot shooter, but she encompassed those around her. She understood the mission, and the mission was bigger than herself. And she embodied that. She wanted that. And she was a terrific leader. When she spoke, people listened. And then just to see what she's been able to do, not only as an assistant, she impacted a lot of young people's lives, not only here at UNI, obviously at Drake, and then what she's been able to do as a head coach. I'm not at all surprised at her success. When you look at her career from a high school into collegiately, it's only fitting.
Listen, I'm going to shift gears for just a second because I think our fans would love to hear this. You mentioned Coach Fennelly. Iowa and Iowa State women's basketball, it feels like they set a priority to compete against and play home and homes against Northern Iowa and Drake.
Yeah.
Why has the women's game been able to figure this out, but yet the men's game hasn't been able to get those other two, the Valley schools, on the schedule for the last handful of years?
I can't speak on the men's side. The only thing that I can say is I am really appreciative and thankful for Lisa and Jan and obviously Bill, because they don't have to play us, but they do. And they understand. You're talking about three people who they're Iowa natives. They love this state. They understand the importance of the Iowa girl in women's basketball in this state. And it's so many of these young people have played on the same AAU team and our teammates, and now they get to play against each other. It's a win-win, obviously, for our fans, for the state, and for the Iowa girl.
I think so too. And as a fan of college basketball in general and an Iowa native, we thank you guys, all four of you head coaches, for being able to put that product on the court every year, because I believe it generates excitement, not only in Iowa women's college basketball, but it creates that excitement down through high school players and middle school players and even younger, and just keeps everybody dialed into the women's game in Iowa.
It does. And I think you just said it. I think all four schools have a great product. And when you look at the consistency in which the programs have been successful, I think it speaks for itself. But again, I do want to reiterate the fact that Jan and Bill, they don't have to do what they do, but they do. They understand the bigger purpose, and they understand it is important for our fans, and our fans enjoy that. I'll go to 2 years ago when we knocked off Iowa State when they were ranked 8th, and people asked Bill, why do you do that? And he does it for the right reasons. Does he have to? No. But they understand the importance and how important it is, not only to the state of Iowa and the fans, but to the Iowa girls.
You bet. So transitioning back here, building UNI women's basketball, when you accepted the head coaching position in 2007, what vision did you have for Panther women's basketball?
I said it earlier, our vision was to build a program, not just a team, not only to win consistently on the floor, but also to win consistently in the classroom and in the community. And I think when you look at all three of those pillars, this program has done that. And it speaks volumes of the young women long ago, way before we took over 20 years ago, who decided to come here and wanted to lay the foundation and build and be a part of something greater than themselves. But it starts with the young women who believed in our vision, wanted to be a part of what we were doing, trusted, and they said, yes, I want to be a part of something that we feel has the potential to be extremely special. And again, it has a lot to do with young women that we have recruited, and they're amazing, just amazing.
So by year 3 and then year 4,
yeah,
your teams, the Panther program goes back to the NCAA tournament. How did the vision that you just talked about bring early success to your Panther program so quickly?
When we took over, I believe that we was the youngest, if not the youngest, one of the youngest teams in the country. So we had a lot to build with. And I can't say Jackie Kalen was one of those building blocks. Caitlin Oney, who's now on my staff, Lizzie Beck, and Erin Broquet, who's the strength and conditioning coach at Iowa State. Those young women believed. They believed in what we were selling. They believed in the dream and in the vision. And they worked their fannies off to put it all into play, and to be able to share that with them when it was all said and done, was extremely special. But it was brick by brick. I don't think anything worth building comes overnight. Everything takes a process, and it was staying true to the process. And those first couple of years, we had to take the scoreboard out of it. It wasn't necessarily winning on the scoreboard. It was winning, doing the little things and finding ways to find victories in those things, practice, and whether it was quarters or minutes of games. And those building blocks were able to get us where we needed to be in year 3 and 4.
And then beyond that, I think we have to talk about this, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. But one thing that stands out about your program is consistency. And so UNI women's basketball has played postseason basketball every season since those first 2 NCAA tournaments, with the exception of 2013-14, where you finished third in the Valley. 19-20, nobody played postseason. And last year, where you still finished third in the season, it feels like that we don't rebuild in Cedar Falls, we reload. But how have you maintained that level of program success over 2 decades, playing postseason basketball every season but the 3 in the last?
We did get a WNIT bid last year, but we had some injuries, and it was important to rest after we finished in the conference tournament. But again, I think it starts with your players and the past being torched, the culture, and nurturing the culture, and understanding the type of kids that are going to allow you to be successful, not only on the floor, but off the floor. And then my staff is terrific from year 1 till now. And I can't say enough about Coach Nelson, who's been with me all 20 years. You want to talk about loyal and something bigger than themselves. He's had many of opportunities, but he believed in what we were doing, and he loves this place. But again, it starts with the people, the players, the culture, handing it down, the baton off, and understanding what's going to allow you to be successful. We try to recruit the kids that we feel fit our style, our culture, and what we do academically. And we don't try to go above that or below that. We try to hit the mark that what's going to allow us to be successful, both on and off the floor.
You've coached so many outstanding players. You've mentioned a couple, but Maya McDermott, Grace Buffel, Emerson Green, Carly Rucker, Jackie Kalen. But you've built and maintained that culture of excellence in Cedar Falls with a lot of Iowa high school talent.
Yes.
When you're evaluating recruit, maybe what tells you someone is a UNI player?
First of all, it starts with their work ethic. I like multi-sport athletes. I know it's trending away from that, but I love kids who play multi-sports. I like to watch how they interact with their teammates, their coaches. I like to see them in a different arena than basketball. And then is it someone who has a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, someone that's not willing to, that wants to get dirty. And again, the values, they understand they're not where they're supposed to be, but they have an opportunity to get where they want to be. I think that's probably the most important thing that we try to sell young women as they come into our program. And when you look at some of the people that you've mentioned from their freshman year till their senior year, each year they've made a jump. Each year they've made a jump. And you talked a lot about, you mentioned Maya McDermott, and I can't say enough about that young lady, because had she been a little bit bigger, she probably could have went a lot of places. And I know some people didn't take a chance on her because of her size, but boy, can that young lady play. You can't measure heart. Grace Buffel, I'm glad you brought her up, because people were like, why would she leave? And here's what I want to say about that. First of all, she graduated from here. She played all 4 years. Had she not gotten hurt, she would have finished her career here. And when a young lady comes in and she develops the way that young lady develops, and she graduates, you can't help but be excited for her for the next opportunity. And when she came and she said, you know what, this is what I want to do, I said, Grace, you should. Because the young women, you've done everything you can here. And I was so happy and so proud that she was able to come to that, because not everybody understood it. But for her to be able to say, this is what I want to do and this is what I need to do, I applaud that. I applaud that. We've been blessed to coach and be a part of some very special teams with very special young women.
You bet. So your teams are also very consistent in the classroom. They've been in the Women's Basketball Coaching Association's top 25 for team GPA, 14 of the 18 years you've been leading the program in Cedar Falls. Can you talk about what it says about the amazing young women that you've brought to campus to represent the University of Northern Iowa?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's the thing that I don't think gets talked about enough. When you talk about, we know the consistency in which they went on the floor, but when you throw in everything, that the sacrifices that these young people have to make, from the training standpoint to lifting, conditioning, to traveling, and then what they do in the classroom, it says a lot about their work ethic, their discipline, them wanting to, they understand the importance of the academic piece. The basketball piece is something we get to enjoy, and they love what they do. But the academic piece, that's going to allow them to make a better life for themselves. And that's one of the things that we talk a lot about. It is our goal to be in the top 25 every year. And we understand that sometimes that doesn't happen. And what I tell them, as long as you do your best is good enough. So we're really proud of that stat, every bit as much as we are the athletic success that we've been able to maintain.
And before we move on, let's talk a little bit. Our friend Chad Harberts with Sports Iowa, the Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier, wanted to ask your opinion about the impact on club volleyball has had on girls in the state of Iowa.
It is what it is. You could say the same thing about, you just look at it, and this is what I was talking about earlier about the multi-sport. I think what we're starting to see is these kids are having to specialize at a very early age instead of being able to do a lot of everything that they might want to do because of club volleyball or AAU basketball. There's club everything right now. And you know what? As long as, I don't have an opinion either way, other than I don't like the fact that these kids are being forced to specialize at a very young age. I know, like, I'll go back to Elsa was a 4-sport athlete and was good in everything and had choices. I think right now, because of club volleyball and AAU basketball and club track and club soccer, these kids are having to specialize. They're not able to do a lot of everything because one sport or one thing is taking up their entire time. I don't have an opinion either way, other than I would like to see young people be able to do a little bit of everything.
I think you're dead on. I love multi-sport athletes also. I think, go back to one of your college teammates, Connie Yori. Connie's in the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Hall of Fame as both a basketball player and a softball player. And so I think there's a misnomer in today's world that to get to the next level or to play at the college level at a high level, you have to specialize. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think that if you're an athlete, you're a competitor. I think one of the things that you said earlier is really important to me. I think it's important to a lot of coaches is how do you react and how do you act in different situations?
Yes.
And so when we come into a gym or when we go to maybe we're going to go catch one of your softball games at the same time. How are you interacting with people? And how does that speak to your character as somebody that we would like to invite into our program?
Absolutely, Chris. I could not agree with you more.
So let's talk a little bit about building kind of the next edition of Panther women's basketball. But first, maybe it's fun to talk about this as a fan of the Panthers. You're not only the UNI all-time winningest coach, but you're also the Valley's all-time winningest coach, passing Missouri State's Cheryl Burnett. And so we got a chance to meet each other when I was a very young age. And then I worked at Missouri State when Cheryl was the women's basketball coach there. And so it's fun to be able to see and get to know two people that are legends in Valley basketball. But can you talk about what those accomplishments mean to you professionally?
And it takes a village. I wouldn't be where I am today without the staff that I've had from year 1 till year 20. Like I said, it's really important who you surround yourself with. And I've been blessed, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's my heart, to be surrounded by amazing people, amazing coaches, amazing administration. Rick Hartzell, 20 years ago, took a chance on me. And I can't say and thank him enough. But my staff, players. I really, honestly, I have not taken the time to really think about that because it's never been about that for me. But I know someday I will. It has been how do I want to say this? It has been one of the greatest honors of my life to lead this program. And that's how I go about it, to be quite honest. I just enjoy what I get to do and who I get to do it with.
You bet. So let's talk about summertime basketball. Can you talk about a little bit about maybe the players you were able to retain from 25, 20,
Yes.
and maybe some of the new additions to the roster, whether it be from high school or the portal?
Yeah. So we were able to maintain a huge majority of our roster, which in these days, you got to be really thankful because you just don't know. But I'll start with Jenna Tweet. She'll be a senior. We have the 5 for 5, so hoping we get her back. She had a terrific first year coming out of Kirkwood for us, averaged almost 14 a game. She's really evolved. Her teammates picked her as a captain. She's really evolving as a leader. There's been something a little bit different about this group, and I can't figure out if it's how we changed our summer workouts, but their approach, their mindset, their competitiveness has been really good. Elise Yeager from Des Moines, post player, does a lot of things well, has had a good start to the summer. Lee Levine out of the portal. First of all, extremely excited about her. She gives us experience at the guard position, her versatility. Callie is going to be able to play 1 through 4. She'll be able to play some stretch 4 for us. But her leadership, she's been able, and she already has found her voice. She's competitive, and she has allowed everyone around her. If you're not competitive, you're going to get beat by her. And she just wants to win. So we could not be more excited to have her join our program, and she's going to help us do a lot of special things in this league. If we can stay healthy, this team has a chance because not only of her addition, but because of what we have returning in some incoming freshmen.
Coach, stylistically, you talk about being able to switch 1 through 4.
Yes.
What kind of an advantage is that defensively when one of your best defenders can maybe guard through forward?
It's a great advantage. Look, last year, Riley Goebel, who ended up being the Defensive Player of the Year, she was able to do just that. But what allows Callie to be so versatile is she has great athleticism and great speed, and she's strong, good size, and she can literally defend 1 through 4. But more than anything else, she puts the ball on the floor and she's explosive. She can get to the rim and finish, and she's shooting the 3 with some consistency. So she has the potential to impact the game on both sides of the ball.
That's one of the things that I noticed too about both the men's and the women's game. If you have a couple of players that consistently get into the lane on the bounce, that's putting pressure on the defense.
Absolutely.
And they either have to collapse and react to that, or we're going to score in the lane. But when they do collapse, you can kick out to those folks that can consistently knock down jumpers.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're really emphasizing this summer with our offense. We have to get a piece of the paint. We have to get a piece of the paint and make defense have to make a decision, because when you can get to the paint, a lot of good things happen. Let's see, Abby Tuttle, who we always talk about giving the keys over at the point guard position. I'm really excited about her and how she had a really, honestly, good last month of the season and has continued through the summer. So it's been fun to watch her growth, her confidence grow, and her into a leader. Kaylin James, who started for us quite a bit at the 2, really excited about her. Marin played a little bit for us at the 4-5. She'll play a lot. I'm just really excited about this group and what we have coming in. We have 8 returners, 6 new kids, and it's been fun to watch how they've gelled. It's almost like they've been together forever, and I think that starts with our captains in Kaylin and Jenna and how they've led this group. So I try not to talk about depth in the summer because every time I talk about it, it jinxes me. But I'm really excited about this group.
We've talked to a lot of different coaches now about kind of summer basketball and what it looks like on their campus in June and July. Can you talk to our listeners about what June and July have for the Panthers?
Absolutely. We brought our kids in June 9th. And what we do is we did it a little different this summer, and our kids seem to like it. And honestly, I really like it. In the past, we've lifted Monday, Wednesday, Friday in condition, and then we did our basketball workouts Tuesday, Thursday, where we go 2 hours of practice. This year, what we've done is we'll go an hour of practice Monday, and then we bring them back for skill development for a half hour to 45 minutes. Tuesday, same. Wednesday, practice, no skill development. And then Thursday, we do the same. And then they lift and conditioning with our strength and conditioning coach. And honestly, it's been refreshing. It's been competitive. They've really jumped into it. That hour where we just focus on team stuff, we've condensed really what we want to focus on. Whereas in the past, we've tried to focus on a couple of things offensively. We're just focusing on one thing offensively and then one thing defensively. And then we give them the week off for the 4th. So they are home. We'll get them back, and then we'll finish about 3.5, maybe 4 weeks. And then they'll go home again for about a month before school starts. But instead of it being the 2 days a week of skill development, we've gone to 4 days, and we've really shortened it, which has really been beneficial the first couple of weeks.
I think that's actually really a good idea, to be honest with you. It gives you that daily consistency, but it's a shorter amount of time.
Absolutely.
A little bit more, they can focus on intensity and trying to do every day.
Yes. And that's what we've seen. And honestly, I have what we call coffee, because all my kids drink coffee. I don't drink coffee, but we'll go meet their favorite coffee place. I do it once a week with each young lady, just to, not necessarily to talk about basketball, but just to talk. And every single young lady, I don't know if they scared the incoming freshmen because they talked about how we practiced in condition last summer, but every young lady has mentioned how they've enjoyed the shortness, the duration, the intensity, and then being able to come back and work on some skill development.
That's awesome. Roster construction is really one of the biggest jobs, I think, in college basketball in today's landscape. And so based on all the coaches we've spoken to, it really feels, we believe there might need that all the coaches we've spoken to talk about maybe needing to focus on retention, but also high school recruiting and the portal. So how do you balance all three and still produce a roster that embodies Panther women's basketball philosophy?
I think the retention is the most important piece. It used to be, like I said, where you knew you recruited these young women, you knew you were going to have them 4 to 5 years in most cases. Now you really don't know if you're going to have them from year to year. So instead of the focus being on recruiting incoming kids, you're recruiting your roster back and trying to retain your roster. And then for us, we will always recruit the high school kid. That's how our program is built. Iowa out with the high school kid. We will never stray from that. And then if we're fortunate enough to find the right fit in the portal, it always has to be the right fit for us. Then we'll go in that direction. But we'll always start with the high school kid, and it starts with Iowa for us.
So a question we have really enjoyed asking all coaches that have agreed to appear on Deep in the Valley is, when fans come to watch your team play, what do you want them to see, and what do you hope they're saying about the Panthers when they leave the arena?
I want them to see a group of young women who are united, who are passionate about what they do and who they get to do it with. And I want them to leave saying, you know what? That team they love what they get to do, and they love what they get to do together. They work their fannies off, and they're fun to watch.
It's that team you just described, whether it be identity, culture, personality. Are those traits a part of Coach Warren's personality as well?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. This is what I love, and I tell our young people this all the time. As much as we impact you, you too impact us. This is a two-way street. And there's adversity, it strikes. It's not if, it's when, right? And it's really important that they understand we're human. I'm vulnerable, all of those things. I'm not afraid to show them that side, because I want them to understand life is ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and we got to be able to adapt. And we try to do life together. It's not that it gets easier. We just learn to do hard better.
That's actually one of my favorite quotes of all, is that life doesn't get easier. You just learn to handle hard better.
Yeah.
I think resiliency is one of the things that I've seen you teach over the course of the last 20 years. So I think that you hit the nail right on the head. That doesn't just impact your players in the game of basketball. It impacts them in the game of life. Right. It's something they will have to do every day. So let's see here. One thing that's always been difficult for mid-major programs, I think, is building a non-conference schedule. I think It's especially hard for a program with your
Yeah.
level of consistency. So can you talk to us about how the schedule is coming along for 26, 27, and then
Oh boy.
fun non-conference matchups you can tell us about?
Our non-conference is always good, and we probably have outdone ourselves this year, if you can imagine that. So obviously we have Iowa State, Creighton, South Dakota State. We have K-State, Minnesota,
Nice.
North Dakota State. Yeah. But we have to be able to do that. Our league is really good. And we have to be able to put ourselves in position in the non-conference to at least, if we can win a couple of those, especially on a neutral floor, to put ourselves in the at-large, especially with the expansion
Yep.
of the NCAA, of at-large. So we always try to schedule our non-conference extremely hard because we know that our conference is brutal. And so we try to set ourselves up, if we don't necessarily do what we hope to do in the conference play, but we're able to accomplish some things in the non-conference, that we still are in the talks for an at-large bid.
And the Valley Conference season is always a meat grinder.
Yes, it is.
And so this year, with some of the approved changes to the schedule, you're now going to have maybe one less week to get those 20 in. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what that will do in terms of impacting schedule and timelines and travel?
I do know that we'll start Valley play. We'll have 2 games in December, so it'll not necessarily mirror them in, but it'll be somewhat similar. So that's going to be tough. But you know what? In order to win the conference tournament, you got to go back to back. It is something that we know we're not going to have to do that, but it might be a week where we have to play 3 games within that week. So it's a short turnaround. But it does prepare you for what's down the road with the conference tournament, in terms of having to play back-to-back on short turnaround and quick scout, that sort of thing. So I don't quite know how it's going to look, but I do know that there's going to be a week or so in there where we're probably going to have to play three games within a week. And we'll make whatever necessary adjustments we need to.
You bet. And so talk a little bit about some of the other things that were just approved from the Valley office, the significant changes to Arch Madness. And can you talk about your level of excitement about bringing Valley women's basketball under that Arch Madness umbrella brand in 2027?
Let me first say this. I think change is hard for everyone. And I know that there's a lot of excitement and not so excitement. I'm on the excited side. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think the game's evolving. I think I trust our Missouri. I trust our leadership. I trust Jeff. I trust his vision. And we are a basketball league. So it makes sense to me. And if it's done the right way in terms of media and the schedules, in terms of how games fall and all of those things, this is a great opportunity for the men and the women to share the same stage and to be a part of, uplift each other. We're a basketball league. So it makes sense. And yes, I've been a part of where we were on campuses for the conference tournament, and then we were at a standalone event in a venue, and I loved that too. I loved it all. But there's something about this that I really love. And I think if it's done the right way, and I trust that our leadership and with Jeff, and I think that Jill, I think they will do it the right way. I think it has the potential to be something extremely special. Is it going to go without hitches the first year? Probably not. Nothing worthwhile does. But I do think it has the opportunity to be something really special, especially if it's done the right way.
I think some of the things that we've noticed on the scheduling side at the Valley, what will become Arch Madness for both the men and the women, is the women's teams are playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we'll have Thursday off. And so, first of all, I hope that the Panthers get a 1 or 2 seed and they have to bye to the semifinals. But if you don't, what will it be like in conference tournament play to play Wednesday and then have Thursday off before you dive into quarterfinal play on Friday?
It's just like league play, right?
Yeah.
So you play Thursday, you're off Friday, or travel or home, and you have a light practice, a lot of film, and go through scout, that sort of thing. So that's how we will use that day as well. It'll be very similar to what we do in league play, and our young women will be used to that. So that wouldn't be anything new to them. What time you play, the next day might be a little bit different, but we would schedule that accordingly. But it would be no different than what we would do in league play.
All right. So we like to end our episodes with kind of a quick hitter or rapid fire
Okay.
set of questions. What is your favorite arena in the Valley besides the McLeod Center?
Illinois State.
Ooh, okay. You're actually the second coach that has said that. So toughest road environment in the Valley?
Oh, man, all of them.
Yeah. Hardest player that you've had to defend or prepare for as a player or coach in the Valley? Any tough Valley players?
Oh, there's been several. Former, probably Jackie Stiles. Current, Hallie Polk.
Okay. Let's see here. One word that describes Panther women's basketball.
United.
Nice. Your game day caffeinated beverage of choice, and you've already said that you don't drink coffee.
I don't, but I work out in the morning, so I do drink an energy drink, Rang or Bang.
All right. What's one thing your players would say that Coach Warren is famous for?
My shoes. I always have on different pair of shoes. They
Yeah,
like my shoe game.
Your shoe game is
They
really
like my
strong.
shoe game.
100%. And one thing that we always like to ask on Deep in the Valley, and this is tough because I'm a UNI guy, so I know the Cedar Falls places, but if Brian Duttler or myself, we come to a UNI women's game to Cedar Falls this season, before we head to the McLeod Center, where would you send us for a pregame meal? And what is your go-to order at that establishment?
Whoa. Brown bottle, Cajun pasta.
Nice. Oh,
Cajun chicken
one
pasta.
that said Brown Bottle. So I appreciate Brown Bottle, though. Do you remember back in the day, Brown Bottle used to do our post-game meals with Brown Bottle pizza?
Oh, yeah. They
Oh,
still have really good pizza.
Oh, really good pizza. Okay, that's good. Hey, Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, I think your impact on Missouri Valley Conference basketball reaches far beyond wins and championships. You've helped one of the premier women's basketball programs in the country while mentoring kind of generations of student athletes and coaches. We appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
No, Chris, I really appreciate you willing to do this and take the time to do this. And I just enjoy what I get to do and the young people and being able to be a positive part of their lives. And the game's evolved, and it's evolved in a good way. We have a lot of talk about the portal and all of that. And everything's evolving, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like you said, we have to learn to adapt. And I think when we're able to do that, we're going to look back a couple of years from now and look back and say, that wasn't so bad. But anything we can do to help continue to grow our game and the young people, it's always going to be a blessing. So I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Deep in the Valley. Be sure to listen to us wherever you get your podcasts and follow and subscribe. You can follow us on X at Deep in the MVC. So from Cedar Falls to Des Moines, Nashville to Normal, Carbondale to Chicago. For Sports Guys Iowa, I'm Dr. Chris Bowser. Until next time, keep it right here, Deep in the Valley.
Thanks, guys.